Ray, what's your favorite rock and roll musical based on a meat-eating plant?
Okay, I guess I'd have to say Little Shop of Horrors. Is there another rock and roll musical about a meat-eating plant, Jeff?
I really don't think there is. I was just trying to steer you in the right direction on this one.
Of course. Who could forget the 1986 classic movie starring Rick Moranis, Steve Martin, John Candy, Christopher Guest, and Bill Murray?
Sure.
The movie was star-studded, and the musical has been done by countless productions around the world. Shoot, I've even seen high school drama departments perform this one, and a very special performance from Dean Junior College, from yours truly.
Ooh. Well, we're going to have to hear more about that. And, of course, you did, because it's a classic for sure. A story we all know about a Skid Row florist, a hapless employee, and a giant man-eating plant.
All right, I'm guessing we didn't come out to this bog in Amherst, New Hampshire, to discuss musicals.
No, not entirely. We came to Ponemah Bog in New Hampshire to search for some real meat-eating plants. Hello, I'm Jeff Belanger.
And I'm Ray Auger. Welcome to episode 273 of the New England Legends Podcast. Thanks for joining us on our mission to chronicle every legend in New England one story at a time.
And we're so glad you're with us as we make our way through the streets, back roads, and bogs of New England, looking for oddities, ghosts, monsters, aliens, and any other weirdness that makes our radar. And stories make our radar mainly through you. So please like and subscribe and share our podcast with a friend or two. You can subscribe for free anywhere you get your podcasts. The more people listening and sharing, the more people who reach out to us with weird story leads that are truly the sugar in our tea. So reach out anytime.
Hey, speaking of tea, before we go searching for meat-eating plants in the Ponemah Bog, we want to take just a minute to tell you about our sponsor, New Audi Herbals.
Ray, just like people, there are good plants and bad plants. Some plants are carnivorous, and of course, some are deadly.
Thankfully, the folks at New Audi Herbals know their stuff.
They do.
Their teas and products use only natural ingredients. They inspect each herb for quality and to be sure it's designed to help bring balance into the lives of people who use them.
Did you know that New Audi Herbals is a longtime member of the American Herbal Products Association? That allows them to keep up with all the latest standards in herbal products. Rod and Kimberly are always learning new things that make their teas and other products the very best they can be.
And the best part? Their teas taste great.
They do.
And with Thanksgiving coming up, you'll want to have some honey and spice tea on hand from New Audi Herbals. It's perfect for the Thanksgiving season. It contains honey granules, cinnamon bark, honey bush, lemon balm, star anise fruit, and so much more. I can't wait to pair it with my pumpkin pie.
That sounds so good. Let New Audi Herbals help support your healthy lifestyle. Check out the New Audi Herbals website to see all of their great products, and you get 20% off your order when you use the promo code LEGENDS20 at checkout. Please use that code. Visit newaudiherbals.com. That's N-U-W-A-T-I, herbals with an S.com.
Okay, Jeff, when I think of meat-eating plants, I think of the Venus flytrap.
Sure.
All right? And the Venus flytrap and Audrey Chu from Little Shop of Horrors.
Well, of course, that's fair.
But I don't think the Venus flytrap grows in New England.
No, the Venus flytrap is native to the wetlands of North and South Carolina. Not terribly far from here, but far enough. When I worked for my first corporate job during my college summers, I remember a coworker bought a Venus flytrap for his desk, and we spent the better part of the day chasing flies around the office trying to catch one for the plant.
Did you catch one?
So we eventually did, and then he stuck it to the plant's leaf, and the whole experience was a far cry from Little Shop of Horrors. I mean, the leaf of the plant was sticky, it slowly closed on the fly, and digestion takes about 10 days or so before the mature adult plant will reopen and be ready to eat again.
And New England has some carnivorous plants, too.
We do. There are 3 kinds growing here at the Ponemah Bog in Amherst, New Hampshire. There are sundews, pitcher plants, and bladderworts. Each of them are deadly.
Deadly? Are we safe out here? Should we wear hazmat suits or something?
Before we answer that, I think we should head back to 1960 and watch a movie.
It's September 14th, 1960, and a new movie called The Little Shop of Horrors is about to start.
The film is directed by Roger Corman, written by Charles B. Griffith, and starring Jonathan Hayes, Jackie Joseph, Mel Wellis, and Dick Miller.
Shh, it's about to start.
My name is Sergeant Joe Fink, working the 24-hour shift out of homicide. And this is my workshop, the part of town that everybody knows about, but that nobody wants to see. Where the tragedies are deeper, the ecstasy's wilder, and the crime rate consistently higher than anywhere else. Skid Row, my beat. The most terrifying period in the history of my beat began in a little run-down floor shop called Mushnick's.
Good morning, Mrs. Shiva. How's things today?
Oh, the same as usual, Mr. Mushnick.
Got it. So the story takes place on Skid Row, a bad section of Los Angeles that's on the skids. A young, bumbling, hapless guy named Seymour is working at Mushnick's flower shop. Seymour has a crush on his pretty coworker, Audrey, but she's clearly out of his league. But then Seymour happens upon a new kind of plant.
What kind of a plant is this, Seymour?
Well, I'm not sure. I got the seeds from a Japanese gardener over on Central Avenue. He found them in with an order he got from a plantation next to a cranberry farm.
Fine. You don't even know what is this plant you're growing.
Well, I gave it a name.
What name?
Oh, gee.
What, you gave it a dirty name? You can't even mention it?
Well, I named it Audrey Jr.
You named it after me. Oh, really? Well, that's the most exciting thing anyone's ever done to me.
You poor kid.
So Seymour names the plant Audrey Jr., but the plant is sickly. Seymour is going to have to nurse it back to health if Mr. Mushnick is going to let him keep his job and prove his worth around plants. Seymour tries every kind of plant food and water, but the unusual plant just gets sicker and sicker. Seymour can't figure out what this plant needs until one night he's alone in the shop.
Oh, gee. You opened up just like you do every night at sunset. I wish I knew how to make you grow. Here, let me move this out of your way so you can breathe. Ow! Hey, what happened? How come you woke up? Blood? You like blood? Oh, you must be kidding.
Once Seymour discovers what the plant needs, human blood, it starts to recover, grow, even thrive overnight.
And now the plant becomes a draw for Mushnick's flower shop. Customers are flocking in to see the plant and buy Mushnick's flowers.
But then it becomes clear Audrey Jr. needs more blood to survive. And then...
Feed me. Feed me. Feed me.
Who said that? You said that. You said that.
Feed me.
You said that. You can talk. I got a talking plant. Say it again.
Feed me.
The plant starts to talk. Audrey Jr. is ravenous. And if Seymour is going to keep his job at the flower shop, this odd plant needs to thrive or his boss, Mr. Mushnick, will throw Seymour out on the street. And no job means no Audrey 1. Seymour is in a pickle. This plant needs blood.
After a horrible train accident that claims the life of an innocent man, Seymour takes the opportunity to feed Audrey Jr. the body parts. And that's when Mr. Mushnick catches him. And while Mr. Mushnick is conflicted and wants to call the police, when he sees the crowds coming to his shop to experience the now huge Audrey Jr., Mushnick doesn't know what to do. Seymour thinks it's a kind of Venus flytrap that only needs to eat 3 times in its life to reach full size. And that satisfies Mushnick that maybe there'll be no more blood.
Meanwhile, a toothache takes Seymour to a local dentist, a real quack who takes pleasure in the pain of his patients. A scuffle ensues, and then...
All right, Seymour.
Oh, stay away from me.
Seymour.
You're trying to kill me.
A duel. Aha.
And now the dentist is dead. But another patient just walked in. Wait a minute. Is that a young Jack Nicholson?
That is a young Jack Nicholson. He plays the undertaker who comes to visit the dentist because he loves pain.
I'd almost rather go to the dentist than anywhere, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Now, no Novocaine. It dulls the senses.
This is gonna hurt you more than it is me.
Oh, goody, goody.
Amazing. Seymour brings the dead dentist back to the flower shop and feeds the whole body to Audrey Jr.
Now, the police are getting suspicious. A dead railroad worker, a dead dentist on Skid Row, but Audrey Jr. keeps getting bigger. And 2 people are dead at the hands of Seymour, who finally catches the affection of Audrey 1.
Love is blooming. But so is the man-eating Audrey Jr., and Mr. Mushnick is suspicious. So he sits in his flower shop all night keeping watch. But then a burglar breaks in to rob Mr. Mushnick at gunpoint. Not finding much in the cash register, the thief grows angry and demands more. And that's when Mr. Mushnick gets an idea.
I ain't got no more money, honest.
All right, try it the other way around. 5, 4, 3, 2...
All right, already.
Okay, Big Bad, where?
In the plant.
In the plant.
The big plant, Audrey Jr.
Inside the big leaf.
That's right, inside.
How do you get it open?
Just knock. What I did.
Seymour and Audrey 1 have a picnic at the flower shop, but then Audrey Jr. starts acting up looking for food. Audrey 1 is confused at hearing voices and walks out on Seymour. And now Seymour is furious with Audrey Jr. for ruining things with his girl. And that's when Audrey Jr. places Seymour under a hypnotic spell to go find more food.
Seymour finds a local prostitute who ends up being the next victim. Meanwhile, Audrey Jr. grows bigger, stronger, and hungrier. And when some admirers show up at sundown to give Seymour an award for Audrey Jr., the murderous plant's flowers bloom, revealing the faces of all the victims. The police walk in and are sure that they have their man. Seymour runs for it.
The police chase him, but Seymour gives them the slip and then makes his way back to Mushnick's flower shop for the final confrontation with Audrey Jr.
You dirty rat plant, you messed up my whole life.
Feed me!
I'll feed you. I'll feed you like you never been fed before.
Audrey Jr. eats Seymour and blooms one more flower, revealing the hapless clerk's face. It's over. And that brings us back to today. Okay, this was weird.
I know, right? We came to a bog in Amherst, New Hampshire, and traveled back in time to see a cheesy movie.
How did we even get the rights to play those clips?
Okay, this is the funny story. The film's creator, Roger Corman, didn't think the movie had any future prospects after its release in 1960, so he didn't bother to copyright the work.
Wow.
It was in the public domain for all to use. In 1982, the story became an off-Broadway musical written by Alan Menken and Howard Ashman. Being public domain, they didn't need to buy any rights. And then the 1986 movie version came out.
The 1986 version didn't make too many changes to the original story.
No.
Though they did add the musical numbers we all remember and have since seen on countless stages.
Little Shop of Horrors was originally inspired by an Arthur C. Clarke short story called The Reluctant Orchid that was published in 1956. In that story, an orchid collector comes across a carnivorous breed of orchid that almost kills him.
And I'm guessing all these stories draw their inspiration from real carnivorous plants like the Venus flytrap and some of the carnivorous plants found here in Ponemah Bog in New Hampshire.
I mean, of course, they must. It's not that much of a sci-fi stretch to imagine one of these plants evolving, growing huge, and deciding insects aren't enough to satisfy their hunger. So let's see if we can find all three deadly native carnivorous plants here in the bog.
Deadly. You said deadly again.
Yeah, deadly to insects. I think we'll be okay.
Good.
Okay, this one over here looks like a pitcher plant.
I can see why it's called a pitcher plant. It looks almost like a vase that's a couple inches deep or so. The insects get lured inside, get stuck in the sticky insides, and then never come out.
And further up here are some sundews.
This plant has thousands of tiny hair-like fibers that insects get stuck in. The leaf then rolls up on the trapped bug, and then the plant secretes digestive enzymes that dissolve the bug until the leaf opens up again to wait for its next victim.
And finally, we have the bladderworts over this way.
The bladderworts float in the bog and have pretty flowers sticking above the surface. The roots are tubes that get triggered by floating insects. Once triggered, the tube sucks the bugs inside and digests them.
The name of this bog, Ponemah, is reference to the land of the hereafter from Henry Longfellow's 1885 poem, The Song of Hiawatha. The land was donated in 1979 and has been under the protection of the Audubon Society of New Hampshire ever since.
There's 75 acres here that feature trails around the pond and through the bog. It's basically a living museum that you can visit to see some plants and trees unique to this region.
The Ponemah Bog made our list because of the weird plant life that's turned this place into a unique destination. And while I'm not too concerned about us getting out of here alive, keep your ears open should any of these plants start talking.
Thanks, Audrey Jr., for bringing us to After the Legend, where we take a deeper dive into this week's story and sometimes veer off course.
This time, guaranteed veer off course. After the Legend is brought to you by our Patreon patrons. This incredible group of insiders has had our back for years now. We really appreciate it. They help us with our production, podcast hosting, website hosting, marketing, and all the other costs associated with bringing you a new story each and every week. We couldn't do it without them.
Our Patreon patrons kick in just $3 per month to get early access to new episodes, plus bonus episodes and content that no one else gets to hear. If you can help the cause, please head over to patreon.com/New England Legends to sign up.
I have to know more about Ray Auger, starring in Little Shop of Horrors at Dean College. What role did you play?
I was Seymour.
Get out!
I was.
You were Seymour?
See, my early acting days, I got away with musicals because I played like a gangster in Guys and Dolls.
Right.
What else did I do in high school? Grease. I was a greaser. So I talk like this, and I really didn't have to have this beautiful voice. And Seymour was meek. You know, he didn't really have a powerful voice, so I didn't really have to sing all that well. So I got away with those roles.
Rick Moranis he's got a unique voice, of course.
He does, yeah.
You know what he sounds like. And so I didn't know, like, what a funny story. And the reason that 1960 movie still gets played is because of Jack Nicholson.
Right.
Like, so when
he's the only one in it that anyone remembers.
When we were watching, like, this guy comes in and you're like, wait a minute, that guy. And then he starts talking and you can hear in the clip, right, that I think he was about 23 years old.
Very young.
When
it had to have been one of his first.
Absolutely, because it was a B movie.
Yeah.
You know, and but you can still hear that Jack Nicholson in there somewhere, right?
Yeah.
So in a totally different role than anything you've ever seen him in. But so funny to see that. It was just like, whoa. I mean, he wasn't even in the top billing.
Yeah, I don't know who would go watch it otherwise. Because you see that even when we had video stores, well, I guess if you're streaming, you see the front cover and it's him. It's like, oh, I'll check that out. I like Jack Nicholson.
Right.
And then the movie's just crazy. It's why did he do that? Because he needed to at the time.
It's work. Yeah. It's called work. It's funny to watch the 1960 movie. And by the way, we'll put a link to it on our website. I mean, it's free. It's public domain. You can stream it just about anywhere. But you'll have to watch it on a computer or a phone because I don't think anyone's put it up on any of the streaming services.
I haven't seen it. No, just the new one because nobody cares.
Nobody cares. Yeah, but it's funny to watch that and say, wow. I mean, that's the story. They changed a few things, but not much. I mean, that's still the gist of the story, and it was neat to sort of see it. So this is a story, this Ponemah Bog, that has been on our radar for years, and I was like, how do we do it? You know, and so I was thinking, you know, we talked before about like, well, do we reach out to like a botanist to explain how carnivorous plants
riveting
work?
Stuff right there.
That's I think ultimately we said, like, how exciting can that description be, even from a really engaging botanist?
You got to find the rock and roll botanist, but
right.
Where is he? Who knows? Or she?
Right, no idea. So,
what if you Google that rock and roll botanist? Something might pop up.
Somebody like, I'm the one that is going to make that sexy, right? And so
the Guy Fieri of botany.
Right, and so having failed the search for that, I was like, wait a minute, you know, what's the most famous carnivorous plant ever? And it was so Audrey Jr. in the 1960 movie, called Audrey 2, of course, in the 86 movie and the stage show, which I think is a better name, actually. I like
Audrey 2 is much better,
much better than Audrey Jr. So anyway, it was sort of fun, and I recognize this is a bit of a departure for us for our normal stories.
Yeah, but it's still a legend in New England, and what a way to tell it.
And so we do have carnivorous plants indigenous to our region, and we thought, you know what it was too. Like once I started going down the rabbit hole, I found the movie, and there was this big description, like the guy thought it was a train wreck when who wrote it and directed it, and said, I'm not even going to copyright it. This thing is dead after it airs. Like, that's that. And meanwhile, If he'd held on to that, right?
But I mean, would we even know about it if the movie from the 80s came out?
For all we know, Alan Menken had no money and said, I can take this for free and work with it. If it was thousands of dollars, he might have been like, I'll have to pass. I don't have it, right? He was just getting started back then, I don't think he was quite the name yet. 83? I don't know. I'd have to look that up.
Was it 83?
83 was it was off-Broadway show.
Okay.
But it could have absolutely been like too risky if it would have cost a bunch of money to license it. And so he took that old movie. And the other thing I was thinking too, there was like Ed Wood, right? The Ed Wood movies that were so bad. I mean, cardboard props would fall over and stay in, right? Like, there's so many scenes. Like this is what Mystery Science Theater 3000 is based on. Like,
but we give it a little bit more respect because of the Broadway aspect and the remake. So that one tends to get a pass.
Yeah, it gets a bit of a pass. But there was a scene even in this movie where and I saw it in an Ed Wood movie too, that I only noticed it because I watched it on Mystery Science Theater, where they pointed out where the cop walks in with his gun drawn and then realizing like there's no immediate danger, he keeps the gun out and then he scratches his head with the gun, which is
very Barney Fife.
You're like, geez, I gotta figure this out. I'm like, a loaded weapon to your temple. Well done.
That's always funny.
And there's a scene in this version, the 1960 version, where it happens again, and I'm like, where's the MST3K guys to comment on this when you need them? So, but it was fun, and you got to relive it listening.
Yeah, it was fun doing it. It was a very small theater. 100 people maybe, but we had the full Audrey too, like the full plan.
Nice.
We had 3 versions.
Yeah, of course.
One was I had a fake arm, and my other arm was in Audrey's innards. So I was working the puppet.
Yeah.
As I was playing. That's on video somewhere. I got to find it.
Oh, wait a minute. Oh, that could be bonus material.
I saved everything.
Oh, that would be amazing.
I'll see if I can find it before this comes out.
Let's get that 8mm tape and get it converted.
It was VHS.
Digitized.
Yeah.
And neither of us
Not
have
that
a
old
VHS player.
No. But I have a bunch of tapes.
Yeah. Who do we get to? Oh, man.
I mean, you can buy one. I think they're expensive now, though, because they're almost like relics in vintage.
It's called supply and demand,
right?
Right. The supply's low and the demand is low. So so you got that. But no, I think it's such a fun production. When your kids are in like musicals in high school, you just pray you get a fun one.
Yeah.
Right.
And that is a fun one.
That's a fun one. You're like, even if they stink at it, it's still going to be sort of fun.
Right.
Because you know the songs and you know the story and, it's interesting to see them do it.
And by the way, this isn't the first time we pulled a movie into our show. Conjuring and Amityville Horror.
Well, right.
And this one. And Little Shop of Horrors. It's got horror. It's in the name, right?
Horror.
Scary.
It was even listed, the original description, a horror comedy. And it is. It's silly
for that time.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, because when you see Seymour, I mean, he's just this bumbling, tripping over himself, like hapless kid, hopelessly in love with the pretty Audrey coworker.
Yeah,
and
Mushnick, I want to say was over the top, boisterous.
Yeah,
at least he was in the 80s version.
In this version too, he was just like, what is this? What is Mushnick's flower pot? Right.
And Audrey too had that stereotypical. Bubbly blonde voice.
Audrey 1, you mean?
Audrey 1.
Yeah, the woman. Yeah. So very pretty version in the 1960s, and we'll put a link. So you can go watch it if you want to sit down. I think it's only like an hour and 10 minutes. We pulled a lot of clips from it. And you get to hear the young Jack Nicholson, which is so funny when you hear his voice. You're like, that's him in there. He sounds like he sounds like
you think he made up that tone and voice as he went on.
But he's so young. So this is my description of what you just heard it. This is what it sounds like. Today's Jack Nicholson just took a shot of a helium balloon. Right? That's what it sort of sounds like. Hey, it's me, Jack Nicholson, younger, And so anyway.
But a lot more enunciating back then, too, I think. So they were speaking clear, and as he got older, he was a little lazier.
Yeah, he's like, I'm Jack, I don't have to.
I'm Jack, I don't have to talk at all.
So anyway, how cool is that?
Nice.
Weird stuff from New Hampshire, a bog, and a story we've been meaning to get to. Just didn't know how to do it. And thank you to Little Shop of Horrors for helping us figure it out.
Be sure to subscribe to our podcast wherever you get your podcasts. It's free. And please consider posting a review for us on Apple Podcasts. That helps raise us up in a crowded sea of podcasts. Also, reach out to us anytime through our website with your own strange local legends. It takes a village to find these great stories, and we appreciate all those story leads for sure.
We'd like to thank our sponsor, New Audie Herbals. Thank you to Jack Nicholson for lending his voice acting talents this week, though he really had no say in that. Thank you to our Patreon patrons. And of course, our theme music is by John Judd.
Until next time, remember, the bazaar is closer than you think.
Or you're going to do them both.
What?
Usually you say, until next time, remember.
Oh, sorry. Until next time, remember,
the bazaar is closer than you think.